Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Tea Time. I am in Poland just now, and I've had a fabulous day touring around Krakow a little bit and seeing some of Poland after my 4-day clinic here. So I'm just about to fly out to the UK tomorrow morning, and I have a moment here to share some tea with anyone who has time to share tea with me. I know a lot of you catch this on the replay later, but I thought I would stick to my fairly normal Tuesday tea time as best I can as I travel around the world. So this week, I wanted to talk a little bit about focusing on the process of relationship. I find my students tend to fall into one of two categories. And I do believe it's a spectrum, so everywhere somebody is somewhere on this spectrum between wanting to set goals and achieve them or just wanting to show up and live in the moment. And I really think the middle of that spectrum is probably the healthiest place to be. And that is where we have enough idea of what our goals are that we can have a process with our horses. We can actually have some reason for meeting with them. And that is really helpful, I think. But a lot of people get overwhelmed by having a goal. It feels too big, it feels too unattainable, it feels too pressured. They feel like they're gonna maybe ruin the relationship with their horse if they have a goal. And that's maybe too far to one side of the spectrum, whereas not having any goals at all, I think is probably too far on the other side of the spectrum. Hey, Cindy. I'm glad to see you. If briefly, say hello to your horses for me. So let's think a little bit about this spectrum. So if on one side, we're just gonna be in the moment, just love everything that we do with the horses, that's a great feeling. But what I'm seeing more and more as I work with people and horses is if you don't have a goal for your horse has a goal for you. And your horse's goal for you is probably going to be, let's eat a lot more grass. Let's spend a lot more time with my horse friends. Let's do just the things I like and none of the things I don't like. And what happens when your horse makes all the goals is very often they can't see the bigger picture, and their life gets really, really small when they make all the goals. And so I really encourage students to have some goals, to have some things that they would like to help their horse enjoy more. Now, most trainers will encourage you to teach your horse to do things physically, and I'm not against that, but that's not my priority. My priority is going to be, can I help horses enjoy the things they do more tomorrow than they did yesterday? And to do that, we're going to have some sort of a goal. So we work through, what are your goals? What do you want? What do you feel like your horse could enjoy more with you? And it could be anything. If you have enough time, it can be anything if you break it down into enough small pieces. So this is what I do. This is what I do when I go to clinics, is I talk to people about their big goals, but then we break them way, 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 way down to what are the smallest components of those big goals that your horse is really happy to work on today. And I break that down into curiosity, concern, and comfort, being aware that your horse is probably going to be happiest in a state of curiosity unless they're tired. And then if they're tired, they really want to go to a state of comfort. If there's no challenges in your horse's life, they are going to slip into boredom, which is going to propel them into concern. And that is going to be a place then that you have to navigate concern with them. There's lots of ways to do that. I don't think you have to do anything about it. But one of the things I really like to help students with is to think about, how do you get ahead of that? How do you help a horse before they're sliding into concern? How do you help them get the most out of their curiosity the most out of their comfort, and then you give them something to be a little teeny bit concerned about. And concern is something I label as strictly fight or flight. So if they're trying to get away from you, or they're trying to push into you in a way that makes you uncomfortable, that's what concern looks like. Now, if you've got a halter on them, they can't actually get away. And so I get real specific, like, are they trying to change your position? If you were on the left side, are they trying to change it to the right side? If they were with you at their head, are they putting you closer to their shoulder? If you are at the shoulder, are they putting you closer to their head? Those changes, if your horse is having to initiate them, are the beginnings of their concern. And so if you aren't finding something for them to think about that's a little bit interesting, a little bit at the edge of their comfort zone, you're going to find they're going to give you things to think about. So having some small goals is really helpful in teaching the horse to emphasize curiosity and comfort in your relationship. And we can make that a practice. I believe we want to focus more on the practice than on the goal, but we do need to have some sort of a goal to help the horse live their very best life. So this is a thing that I talk about in all my clinics. How do we create a goal that's just big enough that the horse finds life to be really interesting and they're not accidentally sliding into a state of concern all the time? But how do we also break that goal down enough that we're not pushing them into a state of concern either? So I think that the students I have who get really concerned that goals aren't good, goals are too much pressure, goals are bad, those are students who have had past experience where they feel like they've pushed a horse into concern and they don't want to do it anymore. I'm with you. I don't really want to do that anymore either. But then the students who, on the flip side, feel like goals are really, really good, sometimes they get a little bit overzealous with those goals. And instead of helping the horse feel their very best self, they end up sort of pushing them into concern accidentally. So both sides of the spectrum can be problematic. And finding the middle is where it gets fun. Where the middle is for each horse, that's what we get to learn. They're all a little different. So some horses are going to be concerned about the fact that you don't know them well enough yet. This is one that I see a lot. So if you can move your feet before your horse moves their feet, they're going to feel like you understand who they are. Now, if you're working in a dominant system, it's going to be a little bit different. You're going to move the horse's feet before they move their own feet. Giving horses the freedom to just move around you however they want, whenever they want, that's fine if they're very emotionally stable. But if they're a little bit emotionally unstable and you don't move your feet before they do, and you don't tell them to move their feet before they've decided where to go, they're going to start coming up with problems. They're going to start coming up with concerns. I don't really like to push horses around, but I found that pushing myself around is the counterbalance to that. If I know my horse needs us to change position, I was at their head, they're not going to want me at their head anymore. They want something different now. If I can initiate that change, we have a whole lot less concern in the relationship than if I just stand there and wait for the horse to initiate the change. This is a little bit different way of thinking, because in dominance, you don't allow the horse to move your feet. You move the horse's feet and you try and stand still. It's totally good in dominance. If you want to work in a different system, which is what I do, then you have to start moving your feet before the horse needs to move their feet to show them you understand. You understand a change is going to be needed soon. Hey, Andrea, it's good to see you. I am enjoying Poland. I only have one more night here and then I am headed off to the UK. I'm sorry I will miss you there. So I know I get to see a few of you guys in the UK next week. I'm very excited about that. I get to see a few of you in Indiana after that. This is really fun stuff when you start focusing on the process of relationship. And the process of relationship, I really believe, is quite simple. Do you know what's going to happen before it happens? 80% of the time, show your horse you know what's going to happen before it happens. 20% of the time, sit back and see if you're right. Is that true? Do you actually know what bothers them? Do you actually know what entertains them? Do you actually know how long they want you to stand at their head or their shoulder? 20% of the time, we test what we think we know to be true. And we might do it by giving the horse a challenge. We might do it by staying passive a little bit longer. But that 20% of the time is what lets us gather more information. 80% of the time, show the horse you know who they are, you know what they like, you know what they don't like. If you can do that, if you can 80% of the time show the horse you know them deeply, that's going to build an unbelievable trust. But 20% of the time, you need to show them that you're still experimenting. You want to know things about them that you don't know yet. You want to know what they're learning, how they're growing, what they're interested in that they weren't interested in yesterday. All those things about the relationship, that's where it gets really interesting. The 20% is in your goals. What are we going to learn together? What are we going to experiment with? What does my horse want to show me? That's exciting. But I find if you make it more than 20% of the time, your horse is going to leave. They're just going to walk away. They're not interested in talking to you unless you have food for them. So we got to figure out 80%, that's the part that makes them want to stay with you. 20%, that's the part that helps them start to see the world in a different way, start to become a better version of themselves, start to grow their comfort zone. And I'm having so much fun learning how to teach that in ways where the horse is voluntarily signing up to do this learning with us without any food rewards, without any pressure to stay, without getting trapped between you and a fence. So if you are interested, I do still have one last place open in my online course that's starting May 22nd, and that's a 18-week intensive of all of these ways we can work with a horse without any tools. I have a few clinics coming up this year, but not very many. I'll be teaching a little bit more in 2025, and my book will be out in November. So it's really fun stuff. I love sharing it with all of you. Yeah, Andrea, exactly. That Zeus is right there, move or be moved. So Andrea and I had this experience across the country that in that 20% of the time, if you didn't come up with something for Zeus to do, he came up with something for you to do. And that's just the way it works. Move or be moved. Manuela, looking forward to see you in Germany. Yes, I will be in Germany in the end of September, which is really exciting. I believe that's it. Might be October. I'd have to look at my calendar again. And thank you all. Thank you all for joining me for tea time. I am going to go get some rest before I catch an early flight tomorrow. And do drop me an email if any of you are interested in that final spot in my student list for the course starting May 22nd. And I will look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. I believe I will still be in the UK, so I will talk to you from there.